Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Monday Huddle. I am so excited that you are here, willing to join us for another episode of the Monday Huddle. I'm Dr. Dawn, CEO and founder of Dr. Dawn Shop Talk, and if you've joined us for any of our other episodes, you know we are huge fans of a Monday because we believe that if you change your attitude about Monday, you can really change your life. Why? Because you're going to get your week started off on the right foot. So I hope that you become part of our Monday revolution by joining us each and every Monday for your next episode of the Monday Huddle and start seeing your Monday for what I believe it really can be, a fresh start and a new beginning. Now, also keep in mind that I keep the show relatively short so you can join us on your lunch hour. So the huddle is just a small taste of what we could cover in our packages and presentations. At Shop Talk, we specialize in online career coaching, resume reboots, career confidence boot camps, corporate training, and presentations to businesses and also to school districts. Reach out to me anytime on Facebook or on the website. I would love to get together with you and schedule your free 30-minute consultation. That can be done online or over the phone and gives us a chance to really look at whether any of our customizable services would be a good fit for you. So be sure to check that out on our website at drdawnshoptalk.com. All right, you guys, I am so excited to get started with today's episode. Today is part 3 of our 3-part series called Taking Charge of Your Life. And as you can see, as it scrolls across the bottom there of your screen, I believe that if you follow these tips, this will be the tip of the iceberg as you get ready to start making your dreams come true. Today's episode, I'm calling Becoming the CEO of Your Own Life. So I want to talk a little bit about what I mean about that. Now, if you have followed our other episodes, you know that I love providing you with these tips on my website. So the tips that I talk about on today's episode or any of our episodes, actually, you can find on the website. So let me read a little bit from the tip sheet about the introduction to today's topic. All right, you guys. Now, as you know, we're going to be exploring the concept of what it means to be a CEO and how you can apply those lessons to both your professional and personal life. Did you know that CEO literally stands for Chief Executive Officer? And it's obviously the person who's in charge, whether it's a small business, a huge corporation, or even a household. Now, I believe if you were to delve a little bit further into that definition, you would actually see that the CEO technically, in fact, if you were to look this up in Webster's dictionary, it would read, and I quote, that a CEO is actually the person who has the most authority in an organization and a business. So as a result, I could not think of a more symbolic representation of taking charge of our own lives. And that's why I'm excited to bring today's episode to our audience where we can take a look at 3 specific tips so that you can feel empowered both in your professional and personal life. Now, when I started to think about who I would invite on today's episode, of course, the first person I thought of was my dear friend, Tammy Tabruggi. Tammy is not only the CEO and founder of her own business and a dear friend of mine, but she is someone who I know personally definitely takes charge of her own life, and I thought would be a great person to talk about today's tips. Because as you know, on the Monday Huddle, sure, I love filming these shows on my own. Great, that's great. But I always prefer to film with a co-host because I love getting their perspective and their commentary on our different tips. So I wanted to make sure, as we were talking about taking charge of your life and becoming the CEO of your own life, I wanted to make sure that we were actually speaking to another CEO other than yours truly here. So at this time, let me bring Tammy into our show, into today's episode. She has now joined us. Tammy, welcome to your first episode of the Monday Huddle, definitely not your last. So how excited are you to talk about becoming the CEO of your own life?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Don. Happy Monday. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on the show today. And I'm really looking forward to exploring this topic with you.
Wonderful. I'm so excited to have you here, not just because we are personal friends, but because I always like I said at the beginning of the show, I always like to think about people who could share their insights on that particular topic. So, of course, I got to talk about this topic with somebody who I know who's had a very successful business now, what, for over a decade, Tammy, isn't that right?
That's right. Yes.
All right, Tammy. In fact, one of the things I always love to do when I bring on co-hosts is to give them an opportunity to tell our audience a little bit more about their business. So, Tammy, tell us a little bit about Promo Pro and what services you provide.
Yes, thank you. So Promo Pro Incorporated is a marketing company, and we specialize in promotional products. So most people think of that as swag or advertising specialties. And basically, it is anything that a company needs with their logo on it. And we specialize in working with corporations who are using the promotional products as part of their marketing and advertising budget to extend their brand. So most people, though, think of items such as pens or t-shirts or ball caps, but we have the capabilities to do some really creative stuff in this arena. And some examples are a few years ago, we did a video box for one of our clients, which was a direct mail piece. And it was actually a box that you got in the mail. And when you opened it up, there was a video that played and told about our client's new product that they were launching. And it was really fun and creative.
Wow.
So we can just do the spectrum from common things to very unusual and creative ideas.
It's a wonderful business. I know about her business personally, but I do want to tell our audience, when you think about a business that's offering promotional products, I want to kind of remind our audience that this is definitely the kind of business that would thrive on a virtual platform, because not only could you go to her website, you can see her websites there on the screen for you, but today, not just because of virtual platforms like StreamYard, which is where we're broadcasting today, but whether it's a Zoom meeting or even FaceTime, right? You can actually take a look at products, order products, and speak to someone at the same time who can customize that product for your business. So, right, Tammy, this is a business where people could reach out to you, whether they live in Arkansas or out of state. Isn't that right?
Yes, 100%. We have done products and projects just for people all around the country. And absolutely, if who's watching today that lives in another state besides Arkansas, you can absolutely reach out and we would be happy to help you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for letting our audience know a little bit more about this business, because I'm sure there's a lot of people, whether it's for a business, a big business or a small business, who would love to actually get their logo, their name on those kinds of products. So thank you for sharing. Now, another reason, you guys, that I'm so excited Tammy is here is because as we go through the tips, our third tip is all about putting everything in action. So I really wanted to have her feedback, since she has run this wonderful company for over a decade. I wanted to definitely get her feedback on what it's like to actually be a CEO. She does this full time. What is it really like to start your own business from scratch? So I'm really excited that she's going to be able to share her feedback and insight and be able to give our audience some great tips when we get to tip number 3. All right, so speaking of our tips, let me put my trusty readers back on so we can go ahead and get started in talking about our tips today. All right, you guys, so let's start with tip number 1. All right, tip number 1, I'm calling Taking Charge 2.0. So let me explain a little bit more to our audience about what I mean when I say Taking Charge 2.0. So I'm calling it that because I want to make sure our audience knows that taking ownership is a very powerful thing. But oftentimes taking ownership and taking charge might confuse some people into thinking that I'm suggesting that you try to control everything. That's really not what it's about. And in fact, going to our tip sheet that you can get from the website, let me explain a little bit more about that. So, taking charge is simply taking responsibility for what you actually have control over. And it does not mean that you take on your responsibilities and everyone else's. In fact, it really should be an appreciation of what you can and cannot control. And by taking this step, you guys, it really takes the burden off of your shoulders of thinking that you're responsible for everything. The last thing I would want is for any of my clients, for example, as they're enthusiastic and ready to go and make these actions that they have in place really take on a brand new kind of life for themselves, right? The last thing I would want is for them to spread themselves way too thin. And if you think that taking charge means taking on everybody else's responsibility, then you can definitely do that, right? So Tammy, tell us, what do you think about that first tip? Because especially when you're a CEO, right, you take charge, it's probably easy to think you can control everything.
Oh, I love what you said, Dr. Dawn, about just pointing out that you need to focus on what you can control and don't worry about what you can't. And I think especially in this pandemic world that we are living in, that all of us have had to realize that we cannot control the pandemic, but what can we control? And in a business, from a business aspect, I think about, okay, I can control ideas and creativity that I bring to the clients. But if a client's event gets canceled because of a pandemic, that's not in my control. But I can also pivot and I can maybe offer them something that would fit the circumstances. And we have sold a lot of hand sanitizer, branded face masks, and other items that, the whole PPE category that is very popular right now. And, that's just that's taking charge of something that you can control and making it work for those circumstances.
So well put, Tammy. You are exactly right. I mean, being in a world pandemic definitely shows us that we cannot control everything. But as she pointed out, just looking at some of the products that she's able to provide that are so important, right? We can control what we put out there in our business. We can also control our reaction and how we kind of present ourselves to the world, how we present ourselves to our clientele, our customers, and that kind of thing. So excellent point. And I really believe, you guys, that taking charge 2.0 should mean that you have a shift in your mindset. As Tammy pointed out, what you can and cannot control, right? You just have to kind of take that burden off your shoulders. And when you do, I believe it really empowers you to make decisions in your life that can affect your happiness both professionally and personally. And I believe that if you tap into that personal power that we all have to make decisions in that way, it really can create possibilities for you that are endless. Wouldn't you agree, Tammy?
Absolutely, Dr. Dawn. Yes, very well said.
All right, you guys, let's move on to tip number 2. Now, this one is definitely going to interest Tammy because I'm going to take the word CEO. We talked about the fact that CEO stands for Chief Executive Officer. It's the person who's in charge, right? Which is a great thing for taking charge of your life. But I actually have a different definition for myself and my clients when I advise them on how to put some action plans in place. So with tip number 2, I want to explain to our audience a little bit more in depth of what I mean when I say that we're going to redefine what it means to be a CEO. Okay, you guys, going back to our tip sheet here, which is on the website, let me say this. I have a different definition of CEO, mainly because I'm such a visual learner that I would rather picture the letter CEO instead of standing for the actual definition. I would rather instead picture that it stands for the 3 qualities that I believe can really help people be successful. Now, this is not just my personal time-tested beliefs in what I've seen has worked for myself, my clients, my staff, and when I was teaching, definitely for my students, but it's also supported in the research. And the three qualities I'm talking about, if you start seeing it this way, it'll come easy to you. The three qualities are compassion, enthusiasm, and organization. In fact, I believe that these three qualities are so important that I have made it the cornerstone of a course that I'll be offering soon on the website, and it's the foundation of a book that I've been working on that I'm very excited to announce. I'm hoping will be finished this time next year and ready for publication. So guys, think of CEO as compassion, enthusiasm, again, and organization. And if you develop these three qualities, which I know can be developed, I've seen that done for my clients, my students, and my staff. If you develop those three qualities for yourself and for your business, you will see your success, both personally and professionally, really soar. So Tammy, what do you think about tip number 2, redefining what we mean by CEO?
I love it, Dr. Dawn. I love the acronym: compassionate, enthusiastic, and organized. That is so well put. I think that a CEO, whether it's a large company or a small company or even a household, like you mentioned, needs to have those attributes. And if you can think about being compassionate, whether it's towards your employees, whether it's towards your clients, and really putting yourself in their shoes and really understanding that people are so busy and we're all juggling so much, work, family issues, health issues possibly, and have that compassion for where people are at. It just comes across, as just being, a great leader. And then also just being enthusiastic, of course. And Dr. Dawn, you are a shining example of enthusiasm. I've watched your show every week, and that is just what makes you so successful. And then just being organized, and you also exude that with the 3 tips that you have, and just making it easy for people to remember or to go to your website, and to be able to just print off those tips so they can remember. So I think it's fabulous. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tammy knows I love me an acronym. I really do, you guys. I think it makes it easy to remember. But yeah, to your point, Tammy, I mean, sure, somebody doesn't have to be compassionate, but you guys, the research supports this, not just with my girl Tammy here, who's very successful and definitely has these 3 qualities. You guys, she's probably one of the most compassionate, enthusiastic, and organized people I know as well. But you guys, it's not just us. It really is supported in the research. Folks can be successful without having some of these qualities, but if you want to take your personal or professional life up to the next level, you have to develop those qualities. Do some people have it maybe a little bit more naturally? Sure, you might have somebody who's always organized, but you guys, don't let that dissuade you. If you're not typically an enthusiastic person or an organized person, or you're not really sure what we mean by compassionate, these are all qualities that really can be developed. I've seen it firsthand. There's lots of strategies to get you there, and I personally believe that if you take those qualities and believe that you can get better about one or all 3 of those, then you're really going to have a renewed passion for your work. And then that will definitely spill over into lots of other areas in your life. So guys, as I said, I'm basically going to make this the cornerstone of a future course I'll be offering on the website. It's definitely all throughout the book that I've been writing that I'm hoping to get published next year. So stay tuned for details. So if you don't believe you can develop those qualities, I know you can. So stay tuned. There'll be more about that later. All right, you guys. This is about the time in the show that I want to always remind our audience that we absolutely love it when you make comments. Definitely like and share this video or any of our videos, because that helps me as the creator of this content to decide what I really need to focus on. So if there are certain topics that I'm like, oh, wow, the audience really loved that, right? I want to make sure I can continue to bring you valuable information that can help your week get started off and continue to be great throughout the week, right? So definitely be sure to like and share this video and make comments. We absolutely love that. All right, you guys, we're going to now move on to my favorite tip because this is where I want Miss Tabruggy here to share some words of wisdom because she is running a very successful business. And just the idea of starting a business can be very, very overwhelming at times. So I'm calling this Lessons Learned from a CEO. But before I ask Tammy to comment, I want to read a little bit more information from our tip sheet and also kind of talk a little bit more about some of the tips and qualities that are found all throughout the research about what a CEO can really teach us. So let me share a little bit about that. Okay, guys, when you first start trying to take charge of your life, it's really easy, as I've mentioned before, to spread yourself way too thin, right? And part of that is because of that enthusiasm we're talking about. You're busting with ideas. You want to devote this time to this new project or the new business. If you're really starting your own business, you want to do that 24/7. But oh my goodness, if you really did that, you guys, you would be exhausted. You couldn't sustain that. So one of the things I wanted to share with our audience today is that when we talk about lessons learned, we're not talking about you becoming a workaholic and always concentrating on your business, or if you're not starting a business, maybe these goals that you've set for yourself in, say, your personal life. So here are some things I want to share that's out there in the research and that I'm so excited to have Tammy share real world situations she's been in, lessons she's learned, and what it's like to start your own business and become successful. So there's an article out there I absolutely love that was called What I Learned in My First Year as CEO. And you can find this on chiefexecutive.net. That's the website. So here's just a couple of tips I really thought were valuable. And again, guys, I'm going to share this with you on the website. The first tip is accept chaos, right? Don't think everything's going to go smoothly. Just understand chaos is part of the equation. The second tip is to find a mentor or three, as they say in the article, right? I definitely have reached out to Tammy many times myself and other friends of mine who've started their own businesses. Just hearing how they got started and what they do to stay on top of things really can help you. So think about partnering with people and mentoring as well. And the third tip from this article, and then I can't wait to hear what Tammy has to say, is make a decision already. You guys, that's my favorite one, and let me explain why. There's a saying called analysis by paralysis, right? Oh, wait, paralysis by analysis, even better. Okay. In other words, that you can sit there and just freeze if you go over and over and over what you think you should do or could do. You don't want to should all over yourself, as they say, right? You don't want to do that. You instead want to be a relatively quick decision maker. And the research really supports that too, you guys. You have to kind of just put that aside, all that analysis aside, so that you can really make a decision. And remember something we talked about in last week's episode, you guys, and this is also supported in the research. Your top CEOs really believe over and over again, they're quoted in many interviews as saying that they've learned more from their failures than they ever have from their successes. So they're not afraid to make the decision because they allow the chips to kind of fall where they may. And if things go badly, well, it's a lesson learned. Now they learn not to approach things, say, that way, or whatever the case may be. And they don't let that fear of making the wrong decision keep them from moving forward. So, Tammy, what do you think about that tip or any of the tips on tip 3 about the lessons that CEOs can teach us?
Yes, absolutely. I really loved listening to all of those. And I want to comment on the first one about just accepting that there's going to be chaos, because especially if you're just starting out, it can be really overwhelming. And there's things that have to be considered as far as, filing paperwork with the state or the city that you're in. Taxes and, figuring out those implications and getting an accountant and, just maybe what is it like to actually be on your own? That's what it was like for me. And so if you can, one thing I like to remember is persistence. So I think that ties in also with making a decision is like you just keep moving forward. You take the action necessary have to be persistent. And yes, some things are going to go well, some things aren't, and you may have to go back and fix things. But if you just keep moving forward and have that persistence, it is going to pay off.
I love that. That's great. Absolutely, right? Because you know firsthand, you again back to that, what can we control, what can we not control? But it's
Right.
if you're trying to make sure you're successful, and let's say in Tammy's case where she's working directly with clients, if you're trying to give that client the best client experience, you're just going to have to own it if a mistake is made. And you guys, one of the reasons why CEOs can say they are in charge is because guess what? The buck stops with them. So they're not going to take responsibility for every tiny little thing, but if it affects the bottom line or affects that customer's experience, whether they were the ones responsible or not in that case, then they're going to make sure that client comes back. They're going to make sure that customer comes back. And I always respect that about CEOs, that even if it wasn't their mistake directly, they many times will say, I'm so sorry, you should not have experienced that. I'm going to take care of that for you. And they kind of take it from there, right? And that's why I love this whole concept, because I think it really applies to taking care of ourselves, both professionally and personally. Now, Tammy, as a business owner, would you have maybe one more tip? What would be your favorite tip to someone who's thinking about starting perhaps an online business because of the world pandemic we're in? Any advice that you could give to somebody who just really wants to try this, and maybe a lesson they could learn from you today about that very step?
Yes, I think that another attribute to have is to stay positive. And so when things don't go well, can you pivot and look at it from a different angle? And especially since we've been in a pandemic, it's so many things have changed for so many people. People were working at home that weren't working at home. Other things that have changed, like in my business, clients' events being canceled, and so not needing the types of promotional products that they might have needed in the past. But how can you stay positive, not get into fear, but stay positive and keep things going? And so like the example, that I used earlier, it's like, okay, what kinds of things can people use in this environment? Hand sanitizer, face masks that can be branded and then make sense for clients to give to their employees, or to, send out or hand out if, there's a smaller gathering. That is just something that, whether you're starting a business, you're in the middle of a business, you've been in business for a while, like we have for 10 years, stay positive.
I love that. That goes back to that enthusiasm, right? And that is a quality that, CEOs, when times get tough, people look to that CEO for leadership. So guys, that's what I want you to think about. That's why I always advise to my own clients that you need to stay positive. You need to make sure that you are just kind of projecting that out there, because you are in a leadership position. If you're the CEO of your own life, then you need to be that role model to maybe friends or family if you're not actually running a business. But if you are, or you're even thinking about running a business, you're going to have to stay enthusiastic and positive to see those tough times through. So thank you, Tammy, so much for your feedback and your advice on that. I couldn't agree more. I tend to be a little positive myself, so I could relate to that one for sure. All right, you guys. As Tammy said about being positive, that is going to just kind of flow right into this last little bit I'm going to put up there on the screen for you. And that is Hello Week, let's do this. So you guys know that the Monday Huddle is all about sharing these tips with you each and every week so you can get your week started off on the right foot. I want you to continue to attack Monday today and think, I've got this. This is going to be the best week ever. Now, you guys, if you don't know, you can obviously find us on Facebook, since we're broadcasting on Facebook today, but we are also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Dr. Dawn Shop Talk also has a YouTube channel. So be sure to check us out on social media. Give us the love on social media. We love that. And don't forget to visit our website at drdonshoptalk.com. That's where you can see all of our episodes as well as get information about all the different services that we provide. All right, you guys, we want to definitely wish you a happy rest of your Monday, everyone. We want you to stay safe. Tammy, do you have any last parting words of wisdom as we wrap up today's episode?
I just want to remember the acronym and encourage everybody else. The CEO acronym: compassionate, enthusiastic, and organized. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, you guys, and on behalf of Tammy and myself, again, we want you to have the rest of your Monday. We want that to be great. We want you to stay safe out there for sure. And don't forget, this is your place for the Monday Huddle. So be sure to join us next week, same time, same place for your next episode. Bye-bye, everyone. Stay safe and have a great rest of your day.